They said reptiles carried denser skulls. In the archives, today proved it true. The Academy's dueling chamber blazed, with artificial radiance, scales and claws, catching the gleam beneath vaulted arcs. Senior reptiles stood circling the arena, their tails hammering the obsidian floor. With rhythmic force, the vibrations thudded through the benches where alien cadets watched in tense silence. This match was meant as ritual, a test of tradition between old scales and fresh minds. Yet it twisted into spectacle, because one quiet figure stood in the ring. Without hissing, snarling or showing fangs, he lifted only a brow. The seniors saw insult in that stillness. For them, dominance meant noise and show. Their roars cracked stone chest plates, ballooned, claws scraped like flint on steel. They circled, expecting shivers, a crouch, or praised defense against predators. But the brow arched slightly higher. That silence thundered louder than their voices. Cadets leaned forward, whispering theories. Some thought it folly. Others swore it signaled some hidden combat art. Mystery gave the moment weight. The instructor, a towering saurian clad in ritual armor, snapped his jaw and declared the fight begun. The seniors sprang in flawless rhythm. Scale, polished by years of drills, every strike meant to crush pride or bone. Yet the challenger did not leap nor dart. He slid 1 foot a fraction, eyes half shut, as though disinterested. The first claw slashed only air, then the second, third, and fourth. Every blow missed, deflected by nothing more than stillness. The eyebrow never wavered. Unyielding. Roars grew louder, rage mounting in waves. Their storm clashed against a face that did not move. Then came the shift. The brow lowered, insignificant to outsiders but to reptile minds trained to read dominance, it was ruinous. A lowered brow meant dismissal, an elder's signal that the foe was beneath even recognition. Gasps tore through the chamber. Claws froze mid-swing. The strike cut deeper than steel. Cadets understood. The contest was already ended. The brow had judged them, branded them unworthy. Instinct crushed their wills. One senior pushed on, roaring, but his claw faltered wide. Ridiculous laughter rippled, not mocking the brow's owner, but mocking their failing champions. Another stumbled, scales clattering, until the whole formation collapsed into discord. Their rhythm broke, tails whipped wildly, eyes refused to meet the challenger. The eyebrow had unraveled them all. The instructor roared for order, but even he felt that quiet dominance. His claw shook above the gong before striking, ending a battle where no strike landed. At the center, the challenger let the brow fall completely, as though declaring finish. The hall burst in uproar. Cadets shouted questions. Seniors hissed, walls trembling with disbelief. Later, in the crystal-carved cafeteria, the tale spread like wildfire. Every species retold it, each exaggerating. Some swore the brow glowed with psychic force, others that it bent gravity itself. None agreed save that the seniors had fallen without touching him. The challenger sat quietly in a corner, eating plain nutrient mash, ignoring airs. Across the room, the disgraced seniors hunched, food untouched, scales dulled by shame. They seemed smaller. The Academy's balance had shifted in a breath, not by strength but by perception. Instructors met in hidden chambers to study the duel, rewinding the footage to that single raised brow. They summoned scholars, priests, and behaviorists. All agreed the gesture had pierced primal instinct. Dismissal embodied quiet supremacy. No roar, no claw could counter it. The Academy could not ignore the risk. If one motion could unmake a cadre, what might happen in war against entire reptilian armies? Question hung long after the torches dimmed. Meanwhile, cadets practiced before mirrors trying to imitate the motion. Some exaggerated into parody, earning laughter. Others twitched and failed. But the legend spread overnight, etched into graffiti and whispered in halls. And through it all, the one who bore the eyebrow said nothing, keeping to his studies as if nothing had happened. He went to class as though nothing at all had changed. To him, the eyebrow was no weapon, no technique, merely a look that had arrived of its own accord. He couldn't ignore how doors slid open faster when he approached, how lecturers paused before calling his name, how rivals parted in packed corridors. The academy itself had shifted, and whether he desired it or not, he now stood at center. The reptilian seniors, disgraced and uneasy, began scheming. Their pride demanded payback, their culture demanded reclaimed honor. In shadowed training yards they whispered, dragging their claws across stone walls, plotting ambushes, hidden contests, perhaps even open challenge once again. Yet beneath their bluster coiled something heavier, fear. The raised brow haunted them, its silent dominance staining their dreams, like a shadow that refused to fade. And so, while the academy's spires sparkled beneath twin moons, a quiet storm churned unseen. The eyebrow's owner walked among them, either oblivious or entirely aware. The seniors sharpened plans. The instructors debated law and custom. And younger cadets looked on in awe, anticipation, and curiosity. None of them grasped that this was only the spark, the start of something far beyond one duel in one chamber. Oh. The academy tried to resume routine. No scheduled drill or lecture could erase what had unfolded. Every time the seniors entered a classroom, whispers trailed them. Cadets clutched their books tighter, antennae flicked, tails curled, mandibles clicked as gossip flowed from desk to desk. The tale already spilled into the outer colonies, carried by rumor chains as cadets relayed it home. Families debated over meals whether a single gesture could dismantle decades of reptilian warcraft. The seniors felt those unseen eyes heavier than they felt the sting of mockery. They tried to push back. Korvac, one of their own, insisted he had slipped on condensation, his tale ruining the formation. Another swore the brow's wielder had smuggled a psychic device. Though academy scans revealed nothing, the excuses only made retellings funnier. Admitting defeat to condensation seemed worse than to silence itself. Meanwhile, the brow's owner carried on. He filed into lectures, filled out exam slates, even nodded off during a long lecture on astronavigation. Still every step drew eyes. Cadets trailed after him, waiting, hoping for another flick of that brow in casual moments. When it didn't come, the suspense only grew, as though they waited for lightning to strike again. Soon the administration intervened. The headmaster, a crystalline being older than the spires, summoned him before the chamber of conduct. The reptilian seniors stood stiff along the walls, scales oiled and rigid. The headmaster's voice rang like struck glass, reminding all that duels tested strength, speed, and discipline, not humiliation. Though within the rules, the brow's act had unsettled centuries of ritual. Order could not be left to unravel. Yet when asked for an explanation, he only shrugged. No hidden tools, no psychic tricks, no weapons. He had lifted his brow because he could, and they had collapsed because they chose to. The crystalline figure flickered with troubled light. Tradition cried for punishment, yet the duel broke no laws. To expel him would confirm reptilian aim. To let him be would cement his legend. In the end, the headmaster offered only a warning, though it sounded more like surrender. But the seniors would not let go. Pride pulled them toward violence. One night, as the moons poured cold silver over the academy's bridges, they struck. 6 of them closed in a long narrow walkway, scales shimmering claws, tapping the metal as they advanced. They snarled that the duel had been a sham, a farce of instinct. This time no crowd, no gong, no interruptions. He stood calmly at the center, arms loose at his sides, the brow unmoved. Their roar thundered across the city of spires as they lunged, claws tearing at air. But he did not retreat. He stepped forward instead. The suddenness shattered their timing. Korvac faltered. The others froze a beat. In that pause the brow rose once. Again. Metal shrieked beneath their claws as they scrambled back. One senior slipped entirely, tail lashing before seizing the railing. The rest went rigid. Instinct told them not to advance. For a heartbeat the bridge lay silent, broken only by the cold whistle of night air. Then one senior snapped, hissed, and lunged with a reckless swing. The brow tilted downward, dismissive, and the strike died in midair, missing by a fraction. Their ambush unraveled at once. They scattered, shame clinging to their scales as they slipped back into the academy's shadows. But by morning, the tail of the moonlit bridge was already loose. From towers and balconies eyes had witnessed everything. Recordings replayed again and again. The legend of the brow did not fade, it swelled. Twice the seniors had failed, and whispers spread without restraint beyond the spires. Commanders and generals received the reports. They pored over the data with stern calculation. If reptilian warriors, seasoned and proud, could be undone by a gesture, what might that mean in real war? They were not yet at war, but tension simmered as it always did. Weapons could break armies, but fear and shame spread swifter than fire. The eyebrow was no longer just rumor. Was potential strategy. Professors studied it openly, veiling the sessions. As culture lectures, cadets filed into halls to watch the recordings slowed to frames. They were asked what they saw, how it felt, whether they could resist. Most admitted unease, even those not of reptilian blood. The gesture seemed to reach deeper beyond species, communicating defiance without sound. The reptilian seniors, maddened by failure, searched desperately. They combed forbidden texts, consulted ancient elders, even tried to mimic the motion. Before hatchlings, the young laughed, unimpressed. It worked only when he did. And that truth stung worse than defeat. The academy split apart. Some swore the eyebrow was a danger, a threat to honor and order. Others called it proof that victory need not be claw or blade, but something finer. The cafeteria buzzed with arguments. Training fields echoed with quarrels. Dormitories hummed late into the night. The eyebrow had become an idea. What truly defined triumph? But under the debates, a darker murmur spread. War bands were stirring outside the academy's neutral lines. Their seniors had been shamed here. What would stop their clans from demanding retribution? On a larger scale, would fleets clash because of one raised brow? Would armies bleed because of pride broken in a schoolyard duel? The question lingered like smoke, and through it all he continued, silent, watchful, each step louder than a roar. The academy waited. Seniors plotted. Teachers argued. Generals beyond took notice. The tale had long since escaped the halls. Something vast was forming. Something far beyond classrooms or cafeterias. By dawn, the spires gleamed as usual. But tension curdled the air. Rumors had grown into alarms. On the edge of neutral space, fleets stirred. Reptilian commanders demanded answers. Their pride smoldered into fury. The seniors, unable to carry their disgrace, sent word back. The reply came not in words, but in warships. The Brow's legend had pierced culture. It had struck at the heart of honor itself. The Academy heard the announcement in a trembling broadcast. Reptilian fleets declared they would reclaim dignity. Cadets crowded the amphitheater, buzzing with panic. Instructors tried to hold order, but this was no longer about drills or timetables. The Academy had become the stage of something larger, and at its center stood the one who had not asked for any of it. The Armada arrived first over the moons. Sleek hulls armed with rows of plasma lances, each marked with clan crests. They demanded the wielder meet them not in ceremony but in war. Refuse and the Academy would burn. The crystalline headmaster flickered uncertainly, turning toward him. Is followed. He offered no speech, no pledge. He simply lifted his eyebrow once and walked toward the docks. Cadets followed, half in awe, half in terror. They strapped themselves into training craft still raw for true war, but drawn by the weight of legend. Instructors protested, but even they could not break the strange authority that trailed the Brow. Soon a patchwork fleet, training ships, auxiliary hulls, mismatched craft rose to face the reptilian armada. Swarm of insects before a mountain of fire. Commanders laughed, their hissing voices echoing across comms, then unleashed the first volley. Plasma tore across the void. Cadets braced for death. But then his face filled every screen. The Brow lifted, and the effect was immediate. The reptilian gunners faltered, went astray. Commanders snarled orders, but hesitation spread like contagion. Entire squadrons froze. Pride battled with instinct, and instinct wavered. Cadets struck back their small craft, slipping between volleys, striking weak spots, exploiting the disorder. Plasma reactor erupted inside the flagship, igniting a chain reaction across the armada. The Eyebrow never unleashed weapons itself, but it unraveled ranks, redirected focus into chaos, and left the reptiles exposed. The conflict swept over the moons like wildfire. Cadets who once doubted themselves now flew with purpose, their practice ships hitting far beyond expectation. The reptilian elders dragged into combat realized too late that their vanity had doomed more than honor. Every glance at the Eyebrow wielder's face made their claws tremble. They tried to regroup, but the louder they shouted, the more their voices cracked into empty echoes. Their fleet fractured piece by piece until escape pods scattered into the void. Their mighty hulls reduced to burning debris. When the final blast dimmed, stillness cloaked the stars. The Academy's forces, scarred but standing, floated through the ruins of reptilian arrogance. Cockpits erupted in cheers, relief crashing like a tidal wave. The Eyebrow wielder spoke nothing. His screen faded, his silence carrying more weight than speeches ever could. The Academy was altered forever. Where once corridors rang with rivalries and lectures, cadets now passed monuments to the battle, murals of patch training, ships toppling an armada. The reptilian elders who survived kept silent, their scales dim, their roars absent. Leaders across the stars argued over what had happened. Some mocked, others feared, but none dismissed it. A single motion had shifted the scale of power. Years later, cadets would whisper it to rookies. They'd sit in the cafeteria, pointing to the seat where he once ate, quietly spooning nutrient mash. They'd lower their brows in jest, laughing yet shivering at the thought of how near the galaxy had come to ruin. Behind the humor always lingered the truth, that one person bent fate not with fire, not with forces, but with an eyebrow. The headmaster's crystalline body glowed brighter at assemblies when recounting. The academy had endured countless duels, countless wars, but none so strange as this. The eyebrow wielder became both legend and warning, proof that true strength does not always under. Sometimes it only arches and lets the universe fall apart. Reptilian pride was broken. The academy remained, and somewhere within the spires a quiet soul carried on, unchanged, while others grappled with the weight of his act. The galaxy never let go of the day reptilian fleets went silent, undone by what no weapon could equal. The duel born in a classroom ended among the stars, rewriting history with a gesture no roar could overcome.